Have you ever been to Tokyo? If you've already taken in its rich culture and sights, there's one striking aspect about it. Tokyo has an incredible number of people. With 37 million inhabitants, it's the largest city in the world, a title it's held for more than half a century. Close behind is New Delhi at 34, followed by Shanghai, Dakar, and Cairo. These cities are all enormous, and some are growing at a truly electrifying pace. You might then be surprised to learn that none of these metropolises comes even close to Manila, the capital of the Philippines, when it comes to population density. With 43,611 people per square kilometer, Manila is the undisputed leader as the most densely populated city in the world. And its challenges are as stacked, one on top of each other, as the massive population that you're probably picturing right now. But the Philippines has perhaps found a solution. It is one of the most incredible transport network projects the country has ever seen. A venture so gargantuan in scale that it aims to redistribute Manila's vast population across other major cities in the surrounding hinterland. This is the Manila Metro Subway Project. Locally, though, it's known by a different name. The project of the century. Today's video is brought to you by Squarespace. Look, I've been using Squarespace for several years now, and it just allowed me to make a beautiful website for myself in less than an afternoon. And that was a few years ago. It's even easier nowadays with all sorts of new features that they've implemented. Basically, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform for building websites, selling stuff, publishing content, whatever you need. You can probably do it on Squarespace. Look, I started with one of their templates, and then you could just replace the images, you could replace the text. Nowadays, they've even got this AI-powered blueprint tool, so you can get a site up faster than even I did. And it literally took me a few hours, and I am not a tech guy. It could actually suggest content layouts and design elements based on what you do, so less guessing and more doing. Plus, they got built-in analytics, and that's definitely going to come in handy. You can see what pages people are visiting instead of just, well, assuming, which is no good at all. Plus, you could do email campaigns with Squarespace, so it's easy to get in contact with the people you need to get in contact with. So look, if you've been sitting on an idea or several ideas, head to squarespace.com/megaprojects for a free trial. And when you're ready to launch, use the code MEGAPROJECTS and you'll save 10% off your first purchase of a website or a domain, which is fantastic. Thank you to Squarespace for sponsoring. And now back to today's episode. So before diving in further, let's take a moment to provide a little bit of statistical context, shall we? There is some debate over which city truly holds the title of the most densely populated in the world. Some point to Macau, a special administrative region of China, as the number one contender. However, Macau's land area is larger than that of Manila proper, and its official population is smaller. Macau's density is generally estimated to be between 18 and 20,000 people per square kilometer. An astonishing saturation, but still only half of Manila. Confusion often arises in the case of microstates like Macau and Monaco, which share similar population densities because the area of these cities is, by default, the entire territory of their respective countries. Monaco, for instance, holds the distinction of being the most densely populated country in the world. Meanwhile, Macau, given its unusual status as a special administrative region of China, is ultimately regarded either as a country in its own right, with the highest density, or more commonly as the most densely populated region anywhere in the world. However, neither of these classifications make them the most densely populated cities. Moreover, a glance at Wikipedia might give you the impression that there are two cities that outrank Manila in population density. However, Haiti's Croix-de-Piquet and Egypt's Giza, while indeed designated as cities, function more like suburbs of nearby municipalities, the national capitals of Port-au-Prince and Cairo, respectively. Many of their residents live in temporary accommodation that has spilled over from adjacent cities proper, leading to some confusion regarding the number of registered residents versus the actual size of these areas. Finally, it is important to note that the figure for Manila's population density, quoted as over 43,000 per square kilometer, is itself contested, with some claiming that the true figure is even higher. What we do have is the 2020 census data, which recorded around 1.84 million residents in Manila's 42 square kilometers. Even relying solely on these figures would make Manila's density, by any measure, the highest in the world, especially if one assumes, however unlikely, that the population has not grown in the 5 years since then. In short, Manila's actual density remains as elusive as it is unmatched. For the purposes of this video, however, we will use the most recent official statistics available, while keeping in mind that these numbers likely represent a significant undercount, particularly in some of Manila's largest impoverished neighborhoods. In trying to figure out how to handle these challenges, the Filipino government quickly realized that finding extra space for its population within Manila itself was quite frankly just impossible. They had an alternate solution in mind. Surrounding Manila to the northeast and south is the much larger region known as Metro Manila, an enormous checkerboard comprised of 16 separate cities, all located in the capital's environs. Most of these cities lie just a few kilometers apart, connected by roads and existing rail lines. The prevailing theory was that if these locations could be better connected and made more accessible to those already residing elsewhere, some of the burden afflicting Manila's overcrowded districts might be alleviated. In 2017, a major infrastructural overhaul was announced. The program focused on modernizing the transportation, logistics, and energy sectors. Major projects included the Metro Manila subway, the North-South commuter railway, the new Manila International Airport, and multiple new bridges and highways. These transformative initiatives aimed to boost economic growth, ease traffic congestion, and enhance regional connectivity, marking a pivotal era in Philippine infrastructure development. But with that being said, this is not actually the first time a government in the Philippines has attempted to spread the population to Metro Manila. In fact, similar projects come with a long and checkered history. It might be difficult to picture almost 2 million people squeezed into an area roughly 4/5 the size of the city of Luxembourg. So let's fill you in. As mentioned, Manila is unusually small. Its boundaries are remarkably tiny compared to its population. With an area of just 42.5 square kilometers, you could fit 37 Manilas into London, and it has less than half the area of New York's Bronx. Despite its size, Manila boasts more than 3 times the population density of the Bronx and twice that of Paris or Mumbai. Accompanying all these challenges are pollution, extreme circulation issues, rampant poverty, disease, administrative chaos, and severe overcrowding, not only in neighborhoods but also in prisons and hospitals. Earthquakes and natural disasters have proven far more costly than they might otherwise be, with flimsy structures toppling during tremors and the efficiency of flood channels curtailed by temporary structures placed across them. Perhaps most significantly, within the context of today's video, are the extreme circulation problems that Manila faces. Traffic Index aggregator TomTom ranks Manila as the 14th worst city in the world for traffic, estimating that a 10-kilometer journey by car takes around 32 minutes on average. Furthermore, it estimated that an average of 127 hours per person per year is lost to congestion in Manila, a statistic that likely reflects severe economic consequences. Manila isn't alone in facing these challenges. Many cities struggling with overcrowding have grappled with similar issues, even those with populations far lower than Manila's. For example, Cairo's overcrowding has become so severe that the government opted to abandon the capital entirely in favor of constructing a new city elsewhere. The true reason behind this decision remains contested, and we've actually explored it in a previous video, so check that out if you want to. Now, returning to Manila's challenges, the period around the Second World War marked the Philippines' first attempt to ease the population pressure on Metro Manila. In 1939, President Manuel Quezon established Quezon City to the east of Manila, intending it to serve as the nation's new capital. Recognizing the growing problems in Manila, President Quezon hoped that the new city would provide a fresh start. True to his vision, in 1948, Quezon City officially replaced Manila as the capital of the Philippines. Problems soon arose, though. Funding constraints, political instability, and wartime devastation hampered Quezon's development. While the University of the Philippines and several government departments moved to Quezon, where they remain, other agencies stayed in Manila because of logistical convenience and established infrastructure. As a result, the population and government functions were divided between the two areas, leading to major inefficiencies. In 1976, President Ferdinand Marcos gave up the goose and redesignated Manila as capital and seat of government once again. Nevertheless, Quezon City remains both a vital part of Metro Manila and the Philippines' largest city in absolute terms, even though the plan envisioned by Quezon ultimately proved unsuccessful. The trouble is that despite the lack of success, there were compelling reasons for moving the capital when it did. Manila was flattened during the Second World War, something we'll explore in the following section. Now, the full effects of that devastation had not yet been reversed by the 1970s, so in the decades after World War II, Manila saw the rise of large, important-looking buildings that were often ramshackle, hastily constructed, and not really of the highest quality. Over time, some structures collapsed or proved no match for the natural disasters that routinely affect this part of the world. It became clear that decisive new action was needed. In 2017, then-President Rodrigo Duterte announced the previously mentioned infrastructure program. Its purpose was to launch new projects throughout Metro Manila to address overcrowding and poor interconnectivity. However, Duarte, now famously in ICC prison awaiting trial for crimes against humanity, declared that the traffic congestion and poverty of Manila would be impossible to overhaul, predicting that the capital would become a dead city within 25 years. Consistent with that vision, he focused primarily on developing projects further afield, particularly the Clark Business Hub and the expansion of Clark International Airport. Both are located in the city of Pampanga, outside Metro Manila, but within the Greater Manila region. It's confusing, we know. Even so, before completely giving up on Manila and Metro Manila, Duarte initiated a last-ditch series of projects to improve the capital itself. The first challenge was to improve circulation, for which the Metro Manila subway would serve as the cornerstone. The first bricks of the project of the century were laid in Venezuela City in early 2019. Now, we won't dive deeply into the details of how Manila reached its breaking point. After all, we've already covered that on our sister channel, Places. Check it out if you want to. Suffice it to say that topological challenges, mass migration from impoverished rural regions, and the enduring impact of past occupiers all played their parts. From the very beginning, many of the city's challenges could be traced back to its colonial roots. Modern Manila was largely built by the Spanish as a city designed to capitalize on East Asian trade routes. Its strategic location along Manila Bay on the South China Sea turned it into a key seaport, enabling the famous galleon trade that linked Asia, the Americas, and Europe. In this bustling global crossroads, a charming city emerged where Chinese silk and spices met silver from the New World. After the Philippines' independence in 1898, Manila's population began growing rapidly. Ironically, a country closely connected to Manila's decline in the previous century, and one well accustomed to managing the challenges of densely populated cities, is playing a key role in the heralded transport overhaul of the 21st century, and that country is, of course, Japan. In the decades following independence, Manila's unique blend of small city framework supporting a vast population led to an unprecedented population density. By the 1930s, Manio Quezon had already started considering relocating essential state functions elsewhere. Then, almost abruptly, World War II arrived on the Philippines' shores along with the Japanese occupation. In December 1941, Japan took over the Philippines and subdued the local population with much the same viciousness seen throughout East Asia. As the war drew on and the US Army advanced, the Japanese embarked on a rampage for the ages, blitzing Manila into oblivion over the span of a month in 1945. An estimated 100,000 Filipinos were killed, with mass executions taking place across the city's neighborhoods, in churches, and even in hospitals. In order to dislodge the entrenched Japanese, approaching Allied forces launched extensive airstrikes and artillery barrages against Manila. This strategy, however, resulted in widespread destruction, decimating centuries-old architecture, key government buildings, libraries, cultural landmarks, and transport infrastructure. By the time the battle concluded, nearly 80% of Manila had been destroyed. The Battle of Manila and the Manila Massacre may have marked the end of Japanese occupation, but they came at an extreme cost. Once hailed as the Pearl of the Orient, Manila was left shattered, its colonial-era heritage nearly wiped out. This period remains one of the most tragic and transformative moments in the history of both the city and the nation. Japan has never fully accepted responsibility for the atrocities, carefully sidestepping the topic of its wartime actions over subsequent generations. Unsurprisingly, many Filipinos have long felt that Japan owes a debt, one that must eventually be repaid. Build, build, build. This is the blunt title of the flagship infrastructure program launched during Rodrigo Duterte's presidency from 2016 to 2022. Often referred to as BBB, the project sought to usher in a golden age of infrastructure while supporting economic growth, easing congestion, and spreading development beyond Metro Manila. Its goals extended beyond merely improving transportation and other infrastructure. It aimed to create jobs, stimulate the economy, and attract further investment to the Philippines. By the time the so-called Project of the Century subway system got off the ground, not literally, in 2019, the BBB program was already well underway. It began in 2017 when Duterte's government unveiled a list of 75 flagship projects, which was later expanded and revised, and dozens of these projects have been completed by the end of his term. In Metro Manila, the first major development was Skyway Stage 3, also known as the Metro Manila Skyway. The project connected two major highways, the North and South Luzon Expressways, and significantly reduced travel time in the area. Another notable achievement was Harbour Link Expressway Segment 10, a 5-kilometer route linking the city of Valenzuela with the city of Caloocan. Other additions benefited locations outside Metro Manila. Among these was the Bohol Panglao International Airport and the Mactan Cebu International Airport Terminal 2, both completed in 2018, which have been instrumental in transforming Cebu and Panglao into thriving tourism hubs. Meanwhile, Duterte's pet project continued with the expansion of Clark, a district situated just outside Greater Manila, primarily centered on New Clark City, a planned community and economic zone, along with the corresponding Clark International Airport, which has since grown into one of the Philippines' key airfields. Despite criticisms regarding project delays and overly ambitious targets, the initial phase of the BBB program successfully created thousands of jobs, attracted foreign funding and technical expertise, and demonstrated a more coordinated approach between national and local governments. Moreover, as the project unfolded, infrastructure spending in the Philippines increased dramatically, from 2.9% of the state budget's GDP in 2016 to over 5% by 2018. The BBB project also sought to shift project financing from a traditional public-private model to a hybrid approach, where construction would be funded by government spending on foreign loans, while the maintenance responsibilities would be transferred to the private sector. With this foundation in place, the subway project was next in line, marking the debut of the first underground rapid transit service of its kind in the Philippines. The only lingering question was, how should it be financed? It was October 2019. Just 6 months after the project's foundation had been laid, and chaos was already unfolding. Ironically, the project of the century, it's not named for being the largest project of the century. Rather, it hints at the enormous amount of time required to complete it. The idea of a subway system for Manila dates back to the 1970s, but it was never successfully implemented. Among other issues, the project faltered when the capital city was shifted and portions of the intended route were found to be prone to severe flooding. A new plan was devised in the 1990s, and several subsequent administrations tried and failed to kickstart construction. It was only under President Duterte's BBB program that the project finally began to take shape. However, by the time Duterte left office in 2022, the project was still very much a work in progress, with completion now anticipated around 2032. The plans for the subway are grand. It will span 33 kilometers, traveling from Valenzuela in North Metro Manila to Paranaque in the south. The project will also feature a one-stop spur line to Ninoy Aquino International Airport, Metro Manila's primary air hub. Additionally, the entire route will skirt the city of Manila itself, avoiding the disruption of building in the most densely developed area, while still providing a bypass line with stops that are within easy access of the city. The subway, once complete, is expected to dramatically cut travel time from Valenzuela to the airport from nearly 2 hours to just 35 minutes. Moreover, it will integrate with other major transit lines, including several that are currently under construction as part of the Philippines' massive infrastructure overhaul. This network will include the North-South Commuter Railway, a 147-kilometer rail route spanning almost the entire Great Manila region, featuring several stations within Manila itself. It will also connect with the MRT-3 and LRT-1, both of which are operational monorail or light rail services, with stops in Manila and its surrounding cities. The goal is for the entire network to ease road congestion, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, and enhance overall mobility throughout Manila. However, given the project's vast scale, its cost was always destined to be high. The full realization of what is being called the project of the century is expected to cost approximately $8 billion upon completion. And it was at this juncture that an unexpected benefactor stepped in. The chief financial backing for the project originates from Japan through an intergovernmental loan provided by the Japan International Cooperation Agency, or JICA. The loan agreement was signed between the Philippines and the Japanese governments in March 2018. Subsequently, successive payments were made in 2022 and 2024 to support the construction, while Tokyo has maintained further oversight through a consortium of consultants, Japanese companies appointed to the project in November 2019. In addition, Japanese firms are actively involved in the design and supply of the subway train systems. Their contributions include tunneling expertise and earthquake-resilient technology, drawing on Japan's extensive experience with transit systems in seismic zones. Indeed, Japan has played a key role in other aspects of the BBB initiative. Another major project with Tokyo's endorsement is the North-South Commuter Railway. Beyond funding and construction, Japan has offered consulting expertise and conducted feasibility studies, helping to ensure that these infrastructure projects meet high safety and engineering standards, an area that has presented challenges in the past. Overall, Japan's involvement in Duterte's BBB reflects a long-standing partnership between the two countries, rooted in mutual economic interests, regional cooperation, and perhaps even a form of atonement for past issues. Well, building a subway is no small feat, regardless of the location, especially when it must navigate some of the most built-up urban areas in the world and move hundreds of thousands of people every day. The timing of the project was also challenging. The year construction began coincided with the onset of the COVID pandemic, which officially reached the Philippines in March 2020. This unfortunate coincidence led to significant building delays and, more importantly, a steep human cost. The virus claimed 66,000 lives in the Philippines and prompted Duterte to enact emergency legislation that redirected public funds from other projects, ostensibly to contain the virus. In 2022, Duterte left office and was replaced by President Bongbong Marcos. This transition marked the end of BBB, although many of its key projects, including the Manila subway, were retained under President Marcos's new Build Better More program introduced the year he took office. And there has been another problem, one that has posed even greater risks to the execution of the subway. To facilitate the project of the century, the Filipino government began expropriating the properties of various people and resettling them to clear space for the route construction. This action led to widespread uproar and protests. The right to forcibly relocate residents of densely packed Metro Manila, the right of way, has remained a thorn in the side of the initiative and continues to spark rancor. In August 2024, the subway system was determined to be only 16% complete, although it is hoped that operations will commence by the year 2028. While the project remains under construction, the vision remains grand. Travel from Clark to Manila will be reduced to an hour instead of 3, and carbon emissions are expected to decline significantly. Once completed, the Metro Manila subway is projected to serve over 800,000 passengers daily, a development that is hoped to alleviate some of the most extreme challenges currently faced by the overburdened region. Only time will tell if this proves so. Much of the remaining infrastructure still needs to be built, and Manila is hardly the only Filipino city struggling under the weight of its vast population. Stay tuned then, perhaps, for the next project of the century that's yet to come. Thank you for watching.